Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl Formations Norse. So we're going through every team in Blood Bowl 2020, and we're looking at setup. So if you're kicking or receiving, kinda how you want to position your team, where you want to put your positionals, and why. Now this is essentially a revamp. We've got a Norse update, new positionals, slightly different team, so thought I'd take this opportunity and kind of refresh what we think you should do with Norse. So if you're going to be playing with or against Norse on the tabletop, we're going to talk you through some setups, what's good and why. Now, the new Norse team has got a few changes of positionals. We've got no throwers anymore. We've got no catchers anymore. So in the backfill of those, we've got the Valkyrie, which is a movement 7 pass and catch piece. They're kind of your new ball carrier. And then there's the Beer Boar, which is a very weak strength 1, movement 5 pig for 20k. Now the Beer Boar has this area of effect that allows at the end of your opponent's turn, if you have a prone player within 3 squares of a standing Beer Boar on a 5+, they just get up off the ground right there and then before your turn. So we'll talk through the placement of the Beer Boar as we go, because it's quite an interesting piece. We've had a few games with them now and they've been okay, and it's definitely something that's worth considering because they are so cheap you're going to end up with them on your team at some point probably. They're great for fouling as well. So the first setup we're going to have a look at is the Chevron Defense. So the Chevron Defense basically works in a way of it's good for battling agile teams, fast teams, teams that are weaker than you. Now as Norse, you've got a load of block, you've got some strength 4 dudes, you've got a strength 5 dude. You're in a good position to bash, okay? Now the Chevron Defense is there to protect you from the dash teams. So if you're set up against Wood Elves, you're set up against Skaven, teams that are looking to score in 2 turns or 3 turns or just go for a quick fast run, this is a really good way to set up with this. So because of the way we've set up our guys, we've got Ulfwereners on the edge here. Okay, normally you wouldn't position a player 1 square away from the edge because, as you know, as a Norse player, that's a beautiful frenzy trap. But actually, because we've got our Berserkers just in front of the Ulfwereners there, they are basically protected from a jolly good surfing. But because we've got our players stacked like this, we'll draw the tackle zones on, and you can see that there's actually no way for your opponent to break through your lines without having to go through one of your players. Now, the beautiful thing about Norse is that Ulfwereners are strength 4, and if your opponent is looking to score in 2 turns or do a fast score or just be faster than you, it means they're probably not stronger than you. Now, watch out for Rat Ogres. If they put a Rat Ogre on the flank, it will have a good opportunity to take on an Ulfwerener. But otherwise, if you're playing against a dash team, you should be pretty safe. So the whole idea is you've got these Strength 4 Ulfwereners anchoring the wide zones. There's nowhere for your opponent to run through the line. What they'll have to do is basically stack a dude here to tag the Berserker, and then blitz in from this direction with +1, giving them a 1 die block against your Ulfwerener. Now, their best situation is that they drop him back up here, and then they can run down the edge here, which is absolutely fine. But your Ulfwerener is going to be in the backfield. And you've also got these Valkyries. So the way we've set up here, we've got both Ulfs in the wide zone, and we've put our Berserkers up front. Now, the reason we put our Berserkers up front instead of having them on the back line here is so that we can protect our Valkyries. So when it starts with a Norse team, your Valkyries have no combat skills at all. They've got no protective skills. They've got no dodge, they've got no block, they've got no wrestle, they've got no way to protect themselves. Which means that they are going to be a target because they're 95k as well. So a wily opponent would use this as an opportunity to blitz them. So we're going to put a sacrificial lineman here who will basically block these squares so that no one can get through. And because of the way our Berserker is here, they can also not get through. So we've kind of got a pocket here where you can put your most vulnerable players. Now, the reason I'm talking through this is because there may be a point here where you don't have 2 Valkyries, you have linemen instead, still set up this way, but what you can do in that situation is swap a Berserker back here. So your Valkyries here are going to be supportive safeties in this situation. So your Ulfwereners on the line are really there to absolutely dominate the edges, and if your opponent doesn't take the Ulfwerener out but they try and blitz through them, your Ulfwerener is going to be within 2 squares of the edge, which is a jolly good frenzy off the pitch kind of mode. So if they don't finish off that Ulfwerener, you're going to have a beautiful counter strike. And these Valkyries are going to be completely untouched, so they will be able to just swoop in and give us support wherever you want. Now, they also have Strip Ball and Dauntless, so whoever breaks through that line, if they do commit heavy and take out their Ulfwerener, your Valkyrie, even if it's not got combat skills, has still got beneficial skills there. But if you don't have Valkyries, then actually what you can do is put your Berserkers back here to give you an additional bit of like frenzy and block in the backfield, with linemen up here ready to take the punch. Now, in this situation, we put the Yeti on the line with the 2 linemen. What you can do is swap the Yeti out with one of your linemen here if you are feeling like they are going to get punched, okay? So if you're up against, what do we talk about? A Wood Elf team with a Tree Man, a Skaven team with a Rat Ogre that may be looking to just absolutely deke out your Yeti, then it might be worth holding that Yeti off the line. But if you're up against a team that's likely to want to score quick, they are going to deploy light on the line of scrimmage, which means your Yeti will either be completely untouched and therefore safe and therefore able to run around wherever you want on your turn, or they're not going to have enough strength to punch the Yeti anyway. But if you are playing against a team that's got 2 heavy hitters or 1 heavy hitter that you're a bit worried about, you can drop the Yeti back down to here. The idea is we want to protect our Valkyries because you need them. Your Berserkers can take a punch. Your Ulfwereners can take a punch. They don't have the best armor in the world, but they will survive because they are made for combat. The Valkyries are made for scoring touchdowns and heroically dying while taking on a Yeti or a Minotaur of their own. Now, if you've got a Beer Boar in this situation, I'd say the worst case scenario here is you've got a Beer Boar and 2 Valkyries, so you've got 3 players that you want to protect. The best thing to do is to sacrifice one of your Valkyries on the edge here. Bring the Berserker in if you've got a Berserker, and the reason for that is because if your opponent wants to target this Valkyrie, they're not breaking through, so you've achieved your mission of slowing them down and stopping them from scoring, and also they're going to end up in base contact with one of your Ulfwereners, which is great for you because that gives you a free 4-die block probably. So you can risk that Valkyrie on that point there. It's going to get 2-die blocked, but people get blocked in Blood Bowl. It's Blood Bowl. Now, what that allows you to do is get rid of this player here. You've got this this line of defense, essentially. And you can put your Beer Boar here. And the reason you want to put your Beer Boar here is because within 3 squares, right? So 1, 2, 3. So basically, if you put your Beer Boar in that situation, anybody here who gets knocked down, by the end of your opponent's turn, if they're just prone, you get that 5+ roll to pop them back up again. So if you've got that Beer Boar and you've got 2 Valkyries, you can move things around to sacrifice one of your Valkyries because there's going to be a blitzing opportunity, but put them next to your Ulf because it's going to make your opponent think twice about blitzing them, and it's also going to take away the pressure for them to score. If they're going to be trying to score, they're not going to be wasting time trying to take on that Valkyrie, and if they do, it's going to slow them down, which is going to give you a fuller defensive series. And the more blocks you get, the longer you get to defend. Generally speaking, with a team that's likely to try and score, if you're running the Chevron defense, you want them to slow down. You want them to waste their activations mucking around with the ball and trying to take out your players, because you got a Yeti, some Ulfwereners, and maybe a mighty Beer Boar to counterpunch and murder them. But let's say you're up against a team that is stronger than you, has got more combat power than you, has just got more murder than you, okay? So Tomb Kings, probably Chaos Dwarves is a team that I'd consider up there with maybe having an edge, maybe Chaos Chosen, probably definitely Khorne. You know, there are a few teams out there that are looking to bash Black Orcs, Lizardmen, that can kind of outdo you. Now, you've got the block skill. Your linemen are great. They've now got Thick Skull, which means they're even more resilient. They are slow, and they will roll a 2 on a go for it instead of a 3, but you've got that extra resilience. But if you are looking to survive, but you can, if you're going to listen to the podcast this week, you will hear about this. If you are playing a Norse mirror match, do not front up to your opponent. Do not deploy heavily on the line, because it's just going to give your opponent an opportunity to cream your team before you get a chance to respond. This is where the anchor comes in handy. So the anchor defense is called the anchor defense because it kind of looks like an anchor, right? You've got the little arrow bits, goes into the sea, and the boat doesn't go anywhere. Sailing with the Bonehead podcast. So the anchor defense, you put 3 sacrificial linemen on that line there. Now, on this defensive setup, what we've got is we do actually, and we have included a pig. Okay, we've included a beer boar who is labeled P for pig, because actually this is a point where they get a little bit of a shine. So we put 2 berserkers on the edge. Now the berserker is a great player. It's got jump up, which means if it gets knocked down and it doesn't jump up for free with the beer boar, actually getting up for 0 squares is really good. Now they are a bit vulnerable. They're strength 3, armor 8+, so being punched is risky. If you are feeling like that's a bad idea, you can swap them with your ulfs, but I like to keep the ulfs behind the line because it means your opponent will have to go all the way around to blitz them. If they come here and blitz your berserker or lineman on the edge there, and they follow up, they're going to be in base contact with your ulf, and you've got all these players, yes, even the pig, to bounce up and make sure that you've got a free 2 to 4 die block back, which is excellent for you. So 3 vulnerable linemen just waiting to die. That's what linemen are good for, and I know I'm said like a proper Skaven coach, right? Now we've got the Yeti behind that line, 2 squares back. You can swap them with the pig if you want to keep your Yeti as your kind of your big linebacker, okay? Because if you put a Yeti here, it's got 5 squares of movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually covers quite a large side of the pitch. I like to use my 2 ulfs here, and we've talked about them being protected by berserkers or linemen here because they're going to get blitzed. If they want to run all the way around and take a blitz on the elf runner, they're just going to end up within your lines. Having these 2 ulfs with movement 6, strength 4, frenzy means that they are brilliant. So if your opponent does start to kind of come around here and set up a screen, Ulf Warhammer is just going to wander straight into that, and then you can kind of pile your team in as a really great counter move, and you've got that Yeti. But like I said, you can swap the Yeti with the pig here to kind of make sure that he's freed up. I don't mind this. If they clear out all 3 linemen and then move in to tag or take on the Yeti, it means they've committed a lot of resources to that, which means you should be in a position to counter-attack on your turn with more resources than they've got. Basically, they're going to drop 2 to 4 players back to protect the ball. If this is a bashy team, they're going to have to. And then they're going to apply 7 players against these 3 and a blitz. That means that they are going to be left with 7 players here against your 11. Let's say 2 of yours get knocked down. That leaves you 9 on 7, even with 2 pieces removed. And just because the beer boar is strength 1 and garbage, first of all, with enough supports, it can make very profitable blocks. It's good fun. They're great for fouling, but a strength 1 beer boar gives the same assist as a lineman. Okay, so the beer boar is going to be great to just wander around using that titchy, dodge and stunty to be able to get that assist exactly where you want them to be. So yeah, they're a vulnerability and they are a target because your opponent's just going to want to wipe them out, but actually they are a really great assisting tool. So in this situation, if your opponent's overcommits, actually you can bring that beer boar anywhere you want to get the assist you're going to need for your berserker to get 2 dice, for your ulf runner to stick at 2 dice, and both those dudes, if they're throwing 2 dice and they push, they're throwing another 2 dice. So being able to stack those extra benefits, really useful. So sacrificial line, you've got a Yeti to bounce wherever you want them to go. You've got Berserker and an Ulfwearer on each of the sides there to be really strong combat contingent. And then you've got the Beer Boar and the Valkyries in the backfield, who are going to be your fast reserve, but also what they're going to do is they're going to swarm in the direction of your opponent's play and just provide assists wherever possible so that you can strike back with your own 2-die blocks on your turn. Now, the pig. The beer boar here is set, and you can swap them with the Yeti because it still applies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 squares to the left and the right of that beer boar. Anybody who is prone there at the end of your opponent's turn is going to be able to, on a 5+, get back up again. That is your entire team. So being able to put that beer boar in the backfield around your team, your opponent's going to knock over 3, maybe 4 of your dudes. Statistically thinking, you should be able to jump up 1 or 2 of those at the end of their turn. And then you've got your berserkers who actually got jump up as well. So this anchor formation, it limits your opponent's offense to target some of your most vulnerable pieces, sure, but also some of your most disposable pieces. But you've got that beer boar to jump back up again, and you've got 2 very strong combat contingents on your wings and a Yeti in reserve. Okay, so let's switch to offense with Norse. Now, Norse are an interesting team. They've got 2 movement 7 pieces in the Valkyries. They don't start with dodge, but basically their first skill up is half the time going to be dodge, half the time going to be block or wrestle, depending on how you kind of go for it. I like dodge on them because then it gives you a fast play option, but that might just be my style. Take your time with Norse. It's okay. You've got strength for Ulfwereners with frenzy. You've got block everywhere. You've got a Yeti with claws. You've got Berserkers who've got frenzy as well. You've got a lot of punching power. You are more consistent. Because you've got block, you can take 1-die blocks. You don't always have to, so don't do it for the sake of it. But actually, if you're up against a team that does not have block, you've got the advantage. And that's absolutely huge. So do not feel pressured to score fast with Norse. In fact, you don't want to. You want to open by receiving. Let's play good Blood Bowl. Ball lands here. You want to move the furthest Valkyrie in front of it to protect. And then you punch dudes, right? Now, we've got a great setup here. The 5-5-1 offense is a really solid setup. It works for every single team. Now, we've spaced our players out because that will protect you from a blitz. If the ball drops here, your opponent is going to have to actually commit resources to blitzing during that blitz turn where you don't get rerolls to try and get to the ball. Worst thing you can do is hunker down, just go deploy all the way here, and then the ball drops here and your opponent just runs through with a blitz result. You lose the game. Again, trust me, I've played with Norse and got blitzed in this edition last week. It sucked. So what I didn't do was play the 5-5-1 offense. And I should have done. Alright, now, this has changed slightly from the last edition. What we used to do is put a thrower out here and your catchers here. Now, we've lost the ability to have a thrower and the catcher. Now, the Valkyries have got pass and they've got catch. So having them in the backfield when you do not need to run the ball super fast is really useful because it gives you options. If the ball ends up here, actually what you can do instead is collect it with a Valkyrie and then chuck it off to this one when you are ready. But the whole idea here is you've got these wingers who can either come up and support a blitz from the Berserker, or they can drop down and protect the ball. So the ball ends up here. Actually, you can bring a lineman down. You can just murder face on the line. And then if you wanted to, Valkyrie goes, grabs the ball, makes a pass to this Valkyrie. You run up here. You've committed heavy to combat here. And you've moved the ball a ton already. You don't have to, but it's actually going to be really beneficial for you in a league to farm short and quick passes with your Valkyries. 3++ to 3++. Every now and again, I mean, this brings into the point of actually, is it worth winning in Blood Bowl to begin when you're starting a league with Norse? Or is it worth farming SPP? That is a very different topic, but actually you will be set up to make a few quick passes. And once you've had fun murdering stuff, as long as the ball's secure, go for it. Worst thing that can happen is a turnover and your turn ends. If it's the last thing you do during your turn, that's fine anyway. So, the other thing to mention here is how you set up on the line of scrimmage. You want to combo as much as possible. You want to set up as many good blocks as you can. Now, I do not mind setting up like this. What it does do is give a 2-die block with a lineman here. 2-die block with block versus 2-die frenzy without block is a tough one. I love knocking dudes down with the Ulfwerener, but in this situation, I would set up like this because actually you get +1 from the Ulf, so this guy can just 2-die block him back, and it frees up your Ulfwerener to do whatever you want to do with it. So knock that guy back, and then you Yeti this guy with 2 assists for a 3-die block. It's magic. It will only be a 3-die block followed by a 2-die block in that situation, but that's 5 dice, and if you're not ready to nuke your opponent after throwing 5 dice, you were never gonna anyway. And in that situation, before you block, you can actually just move dudes in to give you all those assists. You want to maximize your dice in this situation. Now, the other cool thing you can do here, if you want, and these guys are just strength 3, just victims, well, you can just use your Ulfwerener to come across. Use this Ulfwerener to come across in that regard, and then you can just go for maximum frenzy blocks there. It depends on the target type. If they are just strength 2 garbage, if they're Skaven or Wood Elf linemen, then I would probably take the 2-die frenzy block, because actually you want to get them on the ground because you've got a better chance of breaking their armor. If they're armor 9+ pieces, so I don't know, dark elves or humans, I'd probably take the block and drop them if you can, which is great, but actually then it leaves them in a bit more a controlled situation. Basically, you just want to put yourself in the best position possible. And I would rather have a lineman pushing this guy back and still have my Ulfwarunner open than my Ulfwarunner just kind of running across the pitch against a high-edge team. What else to say? Nothing really. Secure the ball either with your lineman or a Valkyrie. Nuke the line of scrimmage. Pick your blitz, lovely. Collect the ball, move up, protect, and then continue to grind down your opponent. And the other kind of setup you can go for is the 7-4. Now the 7-4 gives you more internal protection. It gives you more midfield protection, but leaves your wide zones open. Now the benefit of this is that you've already got a box formed, which means you can spend more time nuking stuff and less time moving players around. But if the ball ends up here, then you are going to be slightly vulnerable to a blitz. Now, the 7-4 ball lands here, you've already got a cage. You've got it set up. Now, that is the one advantage here, is that everybody is within range of each other. So wherever that ball is going to land, as long as it's in the middle, you will be able to have that ball in a cage at the start of your turn. Now, a Norse cage is a pretty frightening thing. And then we've got 7 heavy hitters on the line here. And we've kind of stacked them in a kind of funny way here as well. So what you can do is you can farm along the line, and you want to farm them along the line wherever possible. You've got frenzy, 2 dice, 2 dice. You've got block. You just want to keep farming them left. So air sequence here, ball ends up there. You bring a lineman up to guard, another Valkyrie up to guard. You've got 3 dudes on the ball. This guy's going to come and pick it up last, but obviously not yet, because you're going to roll a 2, and then you just get to go Ulfwarunner across, Ulfwarunner across, Yeti with probably 3 dice, followed by 3 dice, across. And if they just get pushed around, then you've got a Berserker, 2 dice probably by now. You've got extra linemen. The 7-4 secures the ball, but will leave your team detached from your front line. But your front line should have basically nobody left standing. And if you do nuke the murder, you're going to have some free pieces. So in this situation, you've got these Berserkers here to kind of be your tight ends. They can run off and blitz. If the ball ends up over here and you're quite happy, then you've got that flexibility. But you've got 4 dudes in the backfield to build that cage nice and quick, and you've got a mega line of scrimmage here to murder. So whatever team you're playing against, they are very likely to step back from Norse. And on the offense, I would be surprised if they heavily commit to the line of scrimmage, because you've got strength 4 frenzy, because you've got the Yeti with claws. If your opponent's running lizards and they go 6 stack with Sauruses on the line of scrimmage, that means they've got nothing in the backfield, first of all, and you are going to be able to stack that line of scrimmage to give you at least a 4-die block from an Ulfwarunner on one side, a 4-die block from an Ulfwarunner on the other side, and then the Yeti with a 4-die block with claws in the middle. And then by that point, you will probably have enough dudes left over to make 1 or 2 more profitable blocks, either with a Berserker or just straight up blockers. And those linemen and the Berserker and the linemen have block, Sauruses don't. So actually, if your opponent stacks up their heavy hitters against your line, you get the opening shot. And if you've got a Beerbor, you can chuck him in there along that line of scrimmage, because actually all he's performing is the role of an assist. And once you get enough assists, even a pig, trust me, even a pig is going to be able to make a block every now and again. But actually, what it means is you secure the ball, you just stack your blocks as much as possible on that front line, and then the beer pig runs in there and has a cheeky foul. And a foul at +2 against a Saurus is awesome. And if the beer pig gets sent off, he gets sent off. Okay, so that is Norse. I've played a few games with them. I love the team. It doesn't feel massively different. The Valkyries are cool, but they are not catchers. Let's put it that way. And the beer pig is a great bit of novelty that honestly has utility. It's got use in the same way that the goblin kind of does on an orc team. It gives you a different add-on. But like we looked at in the defensive situations, there's going to be times where you just stack yourself in the anchor formation and that Beerbor gets 2 of your dudes up at the end of their turn and they're in contact. And then you can move your reserves around and it just gives you 2 more 2 or 4 die blocks against your opponent. Now you've got block, you've got strength, you've got claws. Norse wants to be in combat, and the more you are in combat here, the more likely you are to win. And the Valkyries, they can put the bowl in Blood Bowl because the rest of the team has got blood very, very much covered. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Put in the comments if you've got some good alters, you've got some good other tactics. These videos kind of become a hub for people who join later and read the comments, because I love it. And there's a whole bunch of you out there who've got even more experience than we do, so always good to hear from you. Anyway, for now, I'm going to disappear. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content, we get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.